Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cisco's Inside Product Podcast. And today I have with me Jeff Schultz, who actually runs our portfolio strategy. Welcome, Jeff. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here, Jeetu.
So you have been the kind of mastermind behind the scenes on helping us put together the cogent, coherent strategy around the entire portfolio rather than talking about every different piece part. Talk to us about the overall, how should customers process what Cisco is doing and why it's so valuable?
Yeah, so I think, we traditionally have gone to market as a whole bunch of different products and different product lines. And what we really wanted to do was focus on a couple of the key outcomes that our customers care most about, especially as we move into this next era of AI, which is agentic AI and physical AI. And so, you can really look at what we do across networking and security and observability and collaboration and break it down into a couple key outcomes. So AI-ready data centers, because we know our customers are looking at how they rethink their data center, rethink what they do within the data center and across data centers, future-proof workplaces. So how they think about where humans work and connect with customers and build things, how that is fundamentally changing in the world of AI. And then, foundationally, digital resilience. So how do they think about leveraging data to make sure that anything that can potentially bring down their business, whether it's an infrastructure problem or a security threat or agentic behaviors, all of these are looked at scale and at machine speed, and we can help keep the business up and operating.
So if I were to take a step back, what you're saying is that the key outcomes that we focused on are three.
Yes.
For a company that's our size: building AI-ready data centers, making sure that our workplaces for our customers get to be future-proofed, and making sure that there's a level of resilience in the infrastructure that we call digital resilience.
Yes.
So given that, let's drill into each one of those. Why is Cisco different in each one of those areas? And specifically, what are the capabilities that customers can benefit from? And what is the problem that we're trying to solve for those customers in those domains?
Yeah, so start with data centers.
Yeah.
So in the data center world, what we know is there's a variety of different kinds of companies that are building data centers. So you have hyperscalers, neoclouds, service providers that connect all of these data centers, enterprise customers. And ultimately, what they're all looking to do is, how do we figure out how to scale these data centers in the world of agentic AI? And at the same time, though, how do we make sure everything is secure in this new world where everything is hyper-distributed? And how do we make it easy for them to adopt this technology? And so those are really the three key things that we're looking at within the data center realm. So how do we help them scale AI? We do that through silicon and systems and optics that help them scale out within their data centers, scale across data centers, and act as if multiple distributed data centers are really working as one, fusing security into the network. So a lot of innovation around how we think about security and networking becoming one. So our network devices literally become security devices, as opposed to having to have a separate set of technology in the perimeter for security. And then full stack AI. So how do we bring together our capabilities as well as our partner capabilities? This is where we do a lot of work with NVIDIA on the Secure AI Factory to tie together all the technology and make it easy to package for our customers to deploy.
And so when we think about the fact that we have a multitude of different customers, from hyperscalers to neoclouds to sovereign clouds to service providers to enterprise, do these areas work across all of them? Are we doing things that are specific for each one of these areas? How do you think about the entire kind of value proposition of Cisco?
Well, I think what's really cool is that you have to think of this as a co-designed stack, a vertically integrated stack. So it starts with Silicon One, but it goes all the way from sort of the silicon to the semantics. So the silicon, the systems that we're able to build on that, the software, the models, everything that we're able to do is co-designed, in the sense that as we think about none of these things are working in silos, right? So our enterprise customers are leveraging service provider technology. They're connecting to hyperscalers and neoclouds. And so the goal here is by doing this unification, we are able to really dramatically simplify how our customers think about deploying an architecture that spans all of these different areas, and an architecture that leverages the power of the stack. So really thinking deeply about what we can do in silicon to enable features within our systems and within the operational side of the house that that all leverage each other as opposed to working independently. And by the way, all of this being done with a mindset of open ecosystem, because we also know that we're not the only vendor that is involved in these solutions. And so part of our design mentality is how do we build this so that you have a compounding value or a compounding effect as you start deploying Cisco technology, but at the same time, it works with all of the other technology that our customers have in these areas.
So I want to dig into a couple of those areas, but before I do that, you and I have worked together for God knows how long, 15 years or something.
Yeah.
And so when you came to Cisco, tell me what surprised you on the positive and what surprised you on the negative, and what have you tried to do on the thing that surprised you on the negative to make it better?
Yeah, so I mean, well, let me start with the positive. And I remember the moment that, it was very, very cool because I think we were still in the time of COVID and the pandemic, and we were very much looking.
I actually remember exactly the location where I called you to say, I think you need to join here.
Yeah, I kind of remember
I was
that.
sitting in my car outside my home in the garage.
Yeah.
And I was calling you and I'm like, you just need to come here.
Yeah. And I think the conversation was about the fact that I think we were very focused on the collaboration technology. Yeah. And I was very passionate about, wait a second, you're going to have to bring collaboration and networking together to be able to address the real problems that our customers are facing with, work from home and hybrid work and things like that. And so, so the positive was you look at the portfolio and it's incredible, like leadership areas across everything, networking, security, observability,
data with Splunk,
data with Splunk, the collaboration technology, both the devices as well as the software side, incredible assets. The negative was that they were all operating in silos, and I think that that hybrid work, effort was really our first attempt at saying, wait, we really need to think about breaking down the barriers between these organizations and talk about how 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And, and I think we successfully did that. I think then the next phase of what we've done as we've really brought together the rest of the portfolio is thinking even beyond that. So, it started with hybrid work. Now it's agentic AI, physical AI, and it's another example of the fact that I don't think you can address these challenges in silos. So you really need to think about how all of this comes together.
Why is that good for customers? Why do customers care about that?
I think, what's happening with, there's so many things happening with agentic AI in terms of the opportunity that you have, as well as the potential dangers, both in terms of, the attack vector that increases, what could possibly go wrong if an agent goes off outside of its guardrails. And this is all happening at machine speed and scale. And so that has dramatically changed how our customers have to think about, the technology ecosystem and their infrastructure for dealing with this. So like, for instance, you can no longer count on security being a separate stack from your network, in our opinion. I mean, you need to start thinking about how do you inspect traffic at line speed. How do you use the network and security working together to be able to contain a risk or contain an exploit or contain an agent that might be going rogue? And again, I think that given how AI has fundamentally changed the game in terms of this speed and scale, we need to start breaking down the barriers of these products even more.
So you've talked about 3 or 4 things. I want to kind of let's break it down. So platform is the first one.
Yep.
Walk everyone through systematically how we think about the platform. And then we'll go from there into open ecosystem. But start with the platform first.
Okay. So
what is a platform? Because it's an overused term right now in the industry.
Yep. So I think there's a couple different aspects of our platform strategy. So first, we already talked about this vertically integrated stack. So being able to leverage the fact that we have silicon, that we have systems, that we have software, and making those all work together in new and innovative ways. Other areas that we think about from a platform perspective, fusing security into the network. So really taking our security assets and our networking assets and thinking of how they come together as one to leverage, to both be faster as well as leverage the network for things that you really will have to do there and not in any side set of applications. The third aspect of platform is data. So, being able to bring together data that has traditionally been very siloed in organizations, network data, traffic, and understanding of processes that are talking to other processes, tying that together with security information and security threat information, tying that together with the experience data that we have, are people actually connecting and having good experiences across all of these networks that we're building. All of this data, being able to bring it together is part of this platform story that I think is truly unique in the industry. And then last but not least, the fourth pillar of the platform is how do we then simplify this using AI and what we call agentic ops. So being able to then create really brand new user interfaces that allow for human and agentic collaboration that tie together all that data and infrastructure we just talked about in unique ways.
So, okay, so that makes sense. There's a couple other things that I at least think about on the platform. Tell me if you agree. One is, I think if we do our job correctly, then the marginal cost of ingestion of every new technology should go down dramatically, and we should almost have that curve approach zero, where every new technology we get can be ingested by the customer for a very, very low marginal cost. Mm-hmm. And number two is there should be a compounding value that's being delivered. So everything that we deliver in the market should be great for not just what it does, but also what it brings to the table for everything else that you have from Cisco.
That's right.
Do you agree?
Yes.
And so now talk about, given that, what does the open ecosystem bring to the table?
Yeah, so let me give you an example though of like the compounding effect. So I think infusing security into the network, that's a really good example. So the new smart switches, as an example, which now allow you to run, firewalling capability on the switch itself. As you and by the way, the switches in and of themselves are incredibly powerful switches. So as you start bringing them into your environment, what is happening is not only are you driving up the level of performance on the network within your organization, but you're now actually providing more points where you can do microsegmentation and inspection of traffic at the same time without having to add additional firewalls on top of it. It's all sort of coming in that same box. And so that allows you to then have a single set of policy that governs both how traffic is happening and routing is happening within your organization, but then also how security policy is being inspected. And again, every network point becomes a security detection and enforcement point. At the same time, what we've done is we've opened that up so that it works with third-party firewalls. So at the you can now have one place where you're looking at policy for segmentation that you can now enforce in Cisco's firewalls. You can enforce it in Cisco's networking gear, and you can also enforce it in third-party firewalls. So you have that compounding effect as you add more and more.
And so this open ecosystem kind of concept that I think we started this right around 5-6 years ago, where we said, hey, you can't be arrogant enough to think that customers are going to always buy just your technology and nothing else. And so we owe it to our customers as good partners to make sure that if they've invested in company A and company B, we happen to be one of those two companies, but the first company happens to be a competitor of ours, we should not let that get in the way of creating a mechanism to add value to our customers.
That's right.
Talk about how that's manifested itself, and what are some of the examples of how that's actually come to life.
Well, let me give you another example. So I think firewall is a great example of that. But let's talk about the future-proof workplace. And there we talk a lot about modernizing campus and branch infrastructure. We talk about security for both agents as well as humans, and we talk about delivering intelligent experiences in that workplace. I think that's an area again where the work that we've done within the collaboration portfolio, specifically within devices, was really focused on open. A couple of years ago, we opened that up to enable other vendors to work on our devices, but not just work on those devices. So think Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google. They can work on those devices, but also because those devices have AI built in, we are able to actually make the experiences of those platforms better because they're running on our devices. And at the same time, because those devices are connected to our network, we're able to gather data, essentially use those devices as sensors on the network to provide our customers with even more data on the experiences that their users are experiencing in those workplaces, and be able to adjust those workplaces as needs change.
Yeah, and so this kind of notion of having an open ecosystem requires two to tango. And so, what message do we want to have for our customers as it pertains to the integration of our technologies with our competitors' technologies, even, and the open ecosystem at large?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we're going to be tightly integrated, loosely coupled is the term that you use. So I mean, we're going to always, of course, look to deliver the great experiences on our own stuff. But when we talk to our to other partners in the ecosystem, it's really about how we are going to bring out the best of their products and allow them to operate within our infrastructure and add value to that on top of what they would produce, or do natively or with some of our competitors in the infrastructure side.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a really good joint value proposition there. Another area that, by the way, we haven't really talked about this yet, but another area is on this agentic ops side, where we recognize that every vendor in the market is thinking about how to apply agents to help improve the operation of their solutions. What we're doing is, with the launch of Cisco Cloud Control, we are talking to our partners about how their agent frameworks can fit into our agent framework, so our agents can work with their agents to deliver solutions and better operations.
And that's a really good point. Take a step back, and given the fact that you talked about platform, talk about Cisco Cloud Control, and specifically what does that do from a value perspective for customers? Like, why is that important, and why is that not just yet another product release from another vendor?
Yeah, so what I think is interesting about Cloud Control is when we first set on this journey, a lot of it was around simplification within our portfolio. How do we bring together all the different dashboards and controllers that we have within the Cisco portfolio under one roof? And I think it has evolved way beyond that. And so where we are with that right now is you can think of it as not just unifying our own dashboards, but unifying all of this cross-domain telemetry. So networking data, security data, application data as part of observability, agentic behavioral data, all of this coming together in one place that we can then use, and we can then use that data to apply agentic ops to these problems of how do we deliver better experiences across our infrastructure? How do we constantly look for whether there are performance problems, whether there are configuration issues, whether there are compliance issues? How do we help humans troubleshoot problems much faster than we could ever troubleshoot them before, or even give them autonomous capability to be able to keep their networks and their systems up and running? And doing that all in a very open ecosystem where these agents are things that our customers can build and control, but then also, as I said before, work with our partners to have agents working with agents. Because again, if you have Slack or you have ServiceNow or you have other types of solutions in your environment, you want to be able to have our agents talk to their agents and be able to jointly solve problems. And so this has really become a harness for this agentic operations, which ties together infrastructure, security, observability, all in one place.
It's basically an infrastructure and security harness for organizations that are looking to manage infrastructure at scale in a secure manner.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. And so, as you think about that, how does this notion of agentic ops, which is agents are going to be ambient and present in your network, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing in the network to monitor the network on an ongoing basis. Walk through what happens when an anomaly is detected, and then what do those agents end up doing, and why is this agentic ops thing so different from what AI ops used to be like, or what the previous generations of these technologies looked like?
Yeah, a lot of it, well, first of all, it starts with the data, having access to more data than we ever had access to before. But I think agents bring a whole new set of reasoning capabilities as well as tool access. So now you have the ability to have these ambient agents start to reason with humans, start to reason with each other, and really do a lot of the steps that we would normally do as humans to sort of understand what what problem is happening, where it's happening, how to potentially fix it. It can start to do all of that for you. And then you really, as an organization, you have a choice. How far do you want to go in automation? Do you want to let these agents go ahead and do that and actually solve the problem for you? or do you want to surface it in new and unique ways for humans and teams of humans to work with the agents to decide on the best solution? And so it's really that reasoning and that tool access that make a huge difference, but data is the key. And again, that's another area where if you don't have the data, then you can't work across these domains, and your agents are going to be handcuffed.
So you and I both talked to Anurag a lot, and one of the things that he has really articulated well is this notion of, I'm going to have these ambient agents in my network. They're going to monitor what's going on. If there's a breach, there's an outage, there's some kind of anomaly that gets detected. Based on that, the agent then does deep reasoning and figures out not just the fact that there's a detection of a problem, but what the ideal solution and response and remediation to that problem should be.
Yep.
Spins up a digital twin. That digital twin could be either emulated with real, kind of devices, or simulated with an actual, simulation engine. You run live data through that, see how that performs in both an emulated and simulated world. If it performs well, then you can actually apply that patch or apply that change to your system or the policy to your system. And if it doesn't perform well, then you know that it's not ready to be applied.
That's right.
As you think about that entire kind of apparatus, where did you see where do you see the customers asking for the most amount of help right now? Like, what are the biggest pain points in customers as they think about this infrastructure management at scale? You talk to a lot of customers.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I think is interesting is, so what you just described is really what customers are asking for. So like, how do I, in this world where our environments are becoming more complex, attacks are going to become more frequent, exploits are going to happen, how do we move faster, and how do we break down those barriers so that you don't have multiple teams having to use manual processes? So that is critical. But I would actually add another thing, and this ties into the other sort of pillar of our message that we talked about, which is digital resilience. What our customers are also saying is, help me get control of all of this data, because I have more telemetry and data than I've ever had to deal with before. But I need to do it economically. Yep. So I need to do it at scale, and I need to do it economically. I need to be able to also, even whether I'm creating agents on my own or I'm using your agents, I need to be able to monitor their behavior and trust that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's great that we can talk about all of this, but we also have to be conscious of the fact that agents can go off their guardrails. They're non-deterministic. So our customers are like, give me agentic ops, but also give me a way of monitoring their behavior. And then lastly, how do I use agents even more in the security world? How do I make sure that I have an agentic SOC so that I know that if something is happening, I can see it quickly, I can respond to it at machine scale. And so those are some of the core components of our digital resilience pillar that really matter. If you don't have those, you can't have agentic ops.
And what has been the challenge? Because digital resilience, the way that we actually deliver to the market, the core underlying technology is Splunk.
Yeah.
What I've heard about Splunk is, hey, this is great tech, it's super expensive, and I can't really go out and justify spending so much money on it because the ingest costs can get to be out of hand because there's petabytes and petabytes of data that need to get ingested. Talk us through the strategy on Splunk and what is actually happening in that part of the portfolio.
Yeah, so I mean that's really what we're addressing as we think about what we launched as the Cisco Data Fabric.
Yep.
So think of the Cisco Data Fabric as taking the power of Splunk, but that also contains additional capabilities such as the new federation capabilities, which allow you to have access to data without necessarily having to ingest it from other sources. So because one of the big costs is not just ingesting data into Splunk, but it's actually getting it out of the cloud systems and other types of systems where that data exists.
The egress costs can be super high.
The egress costs are super high. So Cisco Data Fabric addresses that by allowing you to leave data in place and still get value out of it as part of.
So you're taking your search and analytics to the data rather than bringing the data to Splunk.
That's right. That's right.
And that's available today now.
That's available. And
AWS, Azure, Snowflake, all of that, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's an area of massive innovation investment for us. So we are going to, our goal is to allow you to work at data at ludicrous scale. We kind of put a little bit of a joke in there.
Yeah.
But in order to be able to do that, we have to make it economical. We also have to apply AI to it. So being smart about where data resides, smart about how we label data as it comes in. And so there's a lot of effort in the Cisco Data Fabric around that.
And the kind of data that Splunk specializes in, because data is a broad term.
Yeah.
The kind of data that Splunk specializes in is
time series data, logs, metrics, traces, all the data is really very highly unstructured. That is,
and gives you a temporal view.
It gives you a temporal view. So, like if you can take this highly unstructured data that is time series and start to correlate it along time, you can start to see the cause and effects of things across your entire environment. That was the secret sauce of Splunk from the very beginning, really starting off doing that with like web logs and other types of things back in the day.
But by the way, interesting story is you actually worked with me at Box, but then you went to Splunk for a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
And ironically enough, they came back to us. So
that's right. And this has been a continuous issue, but like agentic AI completely changes the game. Like, actually, one of the things that we haven't really talked about is every agent action, you think of it as a routing challenge, a trust decision, and a telemetry event. Every single thing an agent does is generating some sort of telemetry that we can use to determine whether it's doing something that's a threat, that's doing something bad, or whether it's just a behavioral anomaly. Is it just not doing something well? And so we can actually now, so that's telemetry, that is time series data. We can now bring all of that together. And so another area of huge investment within Splunk after we have the data is this whole area of agentic observability. So being able to take that telemetry and not just determine whether it's a threat. Is an agent deleting 1,000 files? Maybe that's a bad thing, right?
Right.
That's important. But what if you have an agent that's giving incorrect refunds or talking particularly snarky with customers and creating just a bad experience.
Yeah.
That is traditionally very, very hard to monitor and understand. And what we're able to do because of the data and because of some of the Galileo acquisition and some of the other work we've been doing in Splunk observability is really be able to give developers the ability, the agent builders, people who are building agents, the ability to test their agents as they're building them, but then also monitor agents at scale to make sure that they're not doing bad things.
So Jeff, one area that actually has really started coming up lately is this notion of as agents are proliferating more and more, as we're using agents on our daily basis. I know you're a very avid user of agents yourself. The cost of tokens can sometimes get to be prohibitive and almost break the bank.
Yes.
And it's one thing when you have, you break the bank with a couple $100. It's another thing when you start doing that at scale and you break the bank at hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And so this notion of governing token economics, or what they call tokenomics, is a pretty important kind of problem to solve for.
Yes.
And I think the industry is going to need to collectively solve it. What are we doing at Cisco around that?
Yeah, so I mean, it is one of the most important problems that we have to solve because like none of the benefits of agentic AI or physical AI really get paid off in an organization if you can't afford it, and you have to start throttling it or over prioritize. And I think that that's the biggest thing that we need to address. And so there's a couple of things that we're doing about it. And I think I think what's really important to understand is that you need a platform approach to be able to do a good job with tokenomics. You need to be able to see where tokens are being utilized everywhere within your organization. And that means if you are building agents and say you're deploying them in your data centers, you need to be able to be measuring token performance for those agents in the data center. But we also know that like vast majority of agents being deployed within organizations today are actually being deployed on an employee's laptop or on a desk side computer, right?
Yeah.
They are
the Mac Mini and the Mac Studios are actually
you can't buy them
flying off the shelf.
You can't even buy them right now.
Yeah.
And so so you're running Claude or Codex or OpenClaw or any of these other systems there, and And so it creates quite a challenge because it's one thing to be able to monitor token usage within your data center, but if the majority of that token usage is happening outside the data center, you really need a way to look at this holistically. And by the way, one of the interesting stats we just released, that every agentic action requires 450% more network traffic than a human action of equivalent human action, and that's because of all of the token processing that's happening. That's right. And so, what are we doing about it? Like if you look at what we've done within Splunk and how that now ties into the different parts of our platform, whether it's AI defense or whether it's secure access and things that are running on your desktop, we are going to be able to provide that complete holistic view of where tokens are being accessed, whether it's happening again in your data center, whether it's happening in a desktop in your workplace environment. And when you have that, and again, bring all that data together, you can now give customers a view of, is there an agent that is going a little bit rogue in terms of token processing, maybe too expensive, maybe it's got a bloated skill that it's calling and that's just too expensive to process. We can now detect that and give our customers the ability to stop that or put containment around it much more easily. And over time, I would expect this to go into an area where we also give our customers the ability to then prioritize those actions. So being able to look at the tokenomics.
Which kind of actions are you going to actually serve and which ones are you not, because it's going to get queued up to be a lower priority action.
That's right. Like agentic ops is hugely powerful, but you're going to need to, our customers are going to need to decide what agents are going to be prioritized over other agents, what problems are going to be addressed.
It's kind of like the next level of I don't give my daughter Netflix access in the middle of the day because she might take away my bandwidth if I'm in a bandwidth constrained environment at home, and I've actually put that rule in my router, in my switch.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's if you think of agentic ops, there's a ton of compliance checking you can do. Or do you want to do compliance checking every single night in lieu of other problems, or do you want to space that out over time? Those are the types of decisions our customers are going to need to make, and we can help them make.
So we are providing a full stack of observability for AI that includes the resilience of the infrastructure. What is your GPU utilization for your agents, as an example? It includes guardrails around agent behavior. So is the agent starting to go awry? And if it is, what do you need to do to make sure that you can actually keep them within the guardrails? And third, what are the economics of consumption of these tokens that we need to make sure that we keep in mind, because every organization is going to struggle with this. And if an agent is starting to go nuts and start to consume a lot of tokens, you can actually either intercept that agent or kill the agent right away.
That's right. And again, it's all coming together within the Splunk observability platform, but leverages all the rest of the platform to be able to make that happen. And if you didn't do that, you would not have complete visibility.
So if you were to have a magic wand and you said if a customer used our technologies in these ways, they would get the most amount of return from it, what would you advise customers?
I think that my biggest piece of advice would be, first of all, I would say, don't be scared of the agentic AI movement and physical AI, right? I think these are huge opportunities for us to harness. But I think you need to be very thoughtful about how you both leverage it as well as put guardrails around it. And, I think that is why I'm excited about what we're doing to bring the portfolio together to address this, because I don't think you can do that if you look at the problem in individual domains. And so the work we're doing to really bring those domains together, both from a data perspective, a functionality perspective, the platform is really critical to our customers being able to address the problem and really get the most out of AI.
Jeff, one of the challenges that we've had is keeping everyone, our customers, even our sales teams and our partner teams, up to date on what's going on has been a huge challenge. And you've been at the forefront of solving that challenge, which is making sure that the story is simple, and that story is not something that you do as a marketing activity post the product, but the story is what should instruct the building of the product.
That's right.
Any kind of words of advice to our partners and to our internal folks on how they need to be thinking about narrating our values to our customers and making sure that we engage our customers and actually doing a co-design effort. Any thoughts on that to close out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my main thought would be, this framework that we just talked about, AI-ready data centers, future-proof workplace, secure global connectivity, digital resilience, all tied together with AI. That message resonates. We hear this constantly from our customers. I think when we can tell the story in that framework, and then obviously we need to do the double click. You need to talk about what's underneath that. But when we frame the story that way, I think we definitely become very differentiated in the market and compared to
and it's
any
not just
silo.
a fluffy story. It means that we are able to highlight the fact that this notion of a co-design full stack is something that no one else besides us
That's right.
is able to deliver in the market.
That's right. And as our customers are seeing agentic AI take off more and more and see the challenges associated with that in addition to the benefits, I think they're beginning to realize that you have to be thinking about all these domains coming together, and that's the power of the message and the strategy.
Jeff, thanks for being here, man. Great
My pleasure.
job.
Thank you.
And you're doing an amazing body of your work and simplifying Cisco for consumption to billions of users around the world. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.